The frozen encounter. The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland, carrying sharp blades of snow that cut against the soldier's skin like tiny knives. His boots sank deep into the ice with every step, and the heavy weight of his survival pack pressed against his shoulders. For days he had walked alone on this desolate world, searching for any sign of shelter, food, or friendly faces. But the only thing that greeted him was the endless white horizon, silent and merciless. Night began to fall, and the temperature dropped even further. The human soldier knew he could not last long without finding cover. His visor displayed red warnings, his body heat draining, his strength fading. In the distance, he spotted the shadow of a ruined ship, half buried in snow, a relic of some forgotten battle. He forced his legs to move faster, stumbling toward the wreck like a drowning man reaching for air. Inside the ruins, there was little warmth, only broken metal and shattered glass. But at least the walls blocked the wind. The soldier wrapped himself in his thin survival blanket and crouched near the remains of an engine. His breaths came out as clouds of white fog, his hands shaking, his eyelids heavy. Sleep was dangerous here, yet his body begged for rest. Then he heard it. A voice, faint and trembling, carried through the storm. At first he thought it was the wind playing tricks on him. But then it came again, weak, broken, desperate. "Human, please, blanket, just one night." The soldier's eyes widened. He raised his weapon, scanning the shadows of the wreck. Out from the snow, crawling, came a figure. Her skin was pale blue and cracked with frost, her long silver hair matted with ice. Her body trembled violently, every breath a shallow gasp. She looked like she could die any second. The soldier lowered his weapon but kept his guard up. It was an alien woman, clearly not of his kind. Her clothes were torn, and strange glowing marks ran across her arms and neck, symbols of a people he did not know. She collapsed onto the cold floor, her voice breaking as she begged again. "Please, one blanket, one night, or I will die." The human hesitated. He knew the rules of survival. One blanket meant one life saved, but it also meant one life risked. If he shared his warmth, he might not make it through the night himself. Yet as he looked at her shaking form, he saw not an enemy, not a stranger, but a living being fighting the same cold he was. Slowly, he pulled his blanket off his shoulders and spread it over her body. She gasped, clutching it tightly as if it were the last treasure in the universe. Her glowing skin dimmed, her shivers slowed, her breathing became less broken. Tears formed in her strange alien eyes as she whispered, "You saved me, no one else would." The soldier sat beside her, his own body shaking harder now without the full warmth of the blanket. He stared at her, studying her face, her scars, the faint lines of exhaustion carved into her features. There was a story hidden there, one of pain and betrayal. But tonight was not the time for questions. Tonight was about survival. The storm raged outside, pounding the wreckage with walls of snow. Inside, the two unlikely souls huddled together, their breaths mixing in the cold air. The alien woman's head leaned weakly against his shoulder, her voice no more than a whisper. "They left me alone in the storm, said I was weak." The soldier did not reply, but inside his heart, anger burned at the cruelty of such abandonment. Time passed slowly. Every minute felt like an hour, every hour like a day. The soldier's eyes stayed open, watching, listening. Any sound could mean danger. He did not trust her completely, but he knew she trusted him. Her fragile form pressed against his side, clinging to the last hope of survival. The night deepened, and the cold grew harsher. The soldier clenched his teeth, forcing his body to endure the chill. He remembered his training, his orders, his duty. But none of that mattered in this frozen silence. What mattered was that a stranger had asked him for help, and he had answered. When dawn finally broke, the storm slowed. The light of two suns rose over the icy horizon, casting long shadows on the wreck. The alien woman stirred, her strength faint but returning. She looked at him with eyes full of something more than gratitude. Perhaps respect, perhaps a bond that neither had expected. In that moment, the soldier knew this night was only the beginning of a story that would change them both forever. The bargain. The cold morning light spread across the ruins, turning the ice into a sea of silver. The human soldier sat upright, his eyes tired but sharp, his rifle resting across his knees. Beside him, the alien woman stirred slowly under the blanket, her breathing steadier now, her trembling less violent. Her pale skin carried a strange glow in the dawn light, like frost touched by fire. She opened her eyes, staring at him with both fear and gratitude. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice cracked but steady enough to be understood. The soldier did not answer, only watched her carefully, his expression unreadable. Her fingers tightened on the blanket as though it were the only thread keeping her tied to life. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the low hum of wind against the broken metal. Finally, she spoke again, her words halting, her accent strange but clear. "They left me here, my people. They said I was useless." Her lips trembled, but her eyes carried a spark of defiance. The soldier frowned, trying to understand. Abandoned in the storm? By her own kind? The idea unsettled him. The woman noticed his silence and straightened weakly, her eyes locking on his. "I owe you my life," she said firmly, though her voice was still weak. "But you must know if they find me, they will kill us both." Her words carried weight, heavy like the storm itself. The soldier felt his grip tighten on his rifle, a quiet tension rising in the air. He asked carefully, "Why would they hunt you?" Her gaze dropped to the frozen floor, her fingers tracing the strange glowing scars on her arms. "I defied my warlord," she admitted, each word bitter. "They called me traitor, exile, weak." She lifted her head, her eyes burning now with something fierce. "But I am not weak, human, not anymore." The soldier studied her face. There was no lie there, only pain and pride woven together. He thought of his own orders, the warnings about trusting outsiders. And yet, she had begged him for nothing more than a blanket. No weapons, no threats, no deceit, only survival. She leaned closer, her voice turning softer. "If you keep me alive, if you protect me, I will repay you." Her words trembled but carried promise. "I know the tunnels under this land. I know where the hunters walk. I can guide you, keep you alive too." The soldier's eyes narrowed. A bargain was being placed before him. A dangerous one, but perhaps the only path forward. Outside the wreck, strange lights flickered in the snow. Shadows moved in the distance, dark shapes against the white horizon. The soldier noticed first, his body stiffening, his hand gripping the rifle. The woman's eyes widened in fear, her breath quickening. "They are already searching," she whispered. "If they catch us, they will not ask questions." The soldier crouched low, pulling her gently into the corner of the wreck. He peered through a crack in the frozen wall, his heart steady but alert. 3 tall figures walked in the snow, their armor glowing faintly, their weapons humming with deadly power. Hunters. Their steps were slow, deliberate, scanning the wasteland for heat, for sound, for weakness. The alien woman reached for his arm, her grip surprisingly strong despite her weakness. "You see now?" she whispered urgently. "They will kill you because you helped me. You have no choice but to stand with me now." Her voice was sharp, filled with fear but also determination. It was not a plea this time. It was truth, a fact neither of them could escape. The soldier thought quickly. He could leave her, hope the hunters ignored him. But deep inside, he knew the moment he wrapped the blanket around her, his fate was tied to hers. Her survival was now his survival too. The woman looked at him with steady eyes, her voice low and heavy with meaning. "Human, this is my bargain," she said. "You gave me warmth when no one else would. In return, I give you my knowledge, my protection, my loyalty." Her words were a vow, sharp and unshakable. "You saved my life. Now my life belongs to you." The soldier stared at her, the storm quiet outside but danger crawling closer. The choice was no longer his alone. The moment had already bound them, like frost to stone, like fire to breath. He gave her a single nod, silent but firm. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she almost smiled, though it was faint and broken. Together, they pressed against the wreck's cold walls, the hunters drawing near. The bargain had been made. From this moment on, their fates would not be separate. Human and alien, bound by a single blanket in the dead of winter, standing together against the storm. The hunter becomes the hunted. The wreck groaned under the weight of ice as the hunters moved closer. Their tall shadows stretched across the snow, their glowing armor pulsing like the heartbeat of predators. The human soldier kept his rifle ready, his finger near the trigger, but his breath slow and controlled. Beside him, the alien woman pressed against the frozen wall, her glowing scars faintly lighting the dark corner. The hunters stopped only a few meters away, scanning with strange devices that hissed and clicked. One of them lowered a metal spear into the snow, and it vibrated as though it could feel the ground itself. "They are searching for heat," the woman whispered, her voice trembling. "If we stay here, they will find us." The soldier's mind raced. He had survived ambushes before, but never against enemies with technology that could taste warmth through walls. The woman tugged his sleeve, her eyes sharp despite her weakness. "There is a tunnel under this wreck," she whispered, "but it is narrow, dangerous, and filled with ice." The soldier hesitated only for a breath, then gave a single nod. Survival was worth any risk. Quietly, she crawled toward a crack in the floor, her trembling hands brushing away frost to reveal a hidden hatch. The soldier covered her with his rifle aimed at the hunters, every muscle tense. Outside, one hunter turned his head, glowing visor sweeping over the wreck like a spotlight. The soldier's heart pounded, each second longer than the last. Finally, the hatch gave way with a soft creak, revealing a black tunnel beneath. The woman slid inside first, her glowing skin casting faint light on the icy passage. The soldier followed, pulling the hatch closed above him just as one hunter stepped onto the wreck. Darkness swallowed them. Only the woman's faint glow lit the twisting tunnel, like a ghost leading the way. The passage was cold and narrow, ice pressing against their shoulders. The soldier's breath echoed in the small space, loud enough to betray them. The woman whispered, "Stay low, move slowly. The hunter's ears are sharper than yours." Her voice was calm now, steady in the dark. She had lived in fear of them, but here she guided him as if she had been born in the tunnels. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from above. The hunters were smashing into the wreck, searching for signs of life. The soldier gritted his teeth, crawling faster, his rifle scraping against the frozen floor. The woman stopped suddenly and pressed her hand against his chest. "Wait," she whispered. Her ears twitched, her eyes narrowing. "They are dropping probes into the tunnels." The soldier frowned. "Probes?" She nodded grimly. "They crawl like spiders, searching for heat and sound." As if answering her words, a sharp metallic click echoed in the distance, followed by the skittering of claws against ice. The soldier aimed his rifle forward, but the woman grabbed his hand, pushing it down. "No gunfire," she hissed. "The echo will bring them all." They crawled faster, the glow from her skin guiding them around sharp turns and frozen walls. Behind them, the metallic spider probe grew louder, its claws scratching closer. The soldier turned his head for a glance, a machine with many legs, red lights glowing, moving fast in the darkness. He cursed under his breath. The woman's hand brushed the wall until she found a small crack, barely wide enough for a body. "In here," she whispered. "Quick!" The soldier squeezed inside the crack, pulling her after him. The spider probe skittered past, its red eyes sweeping over the main tunnel but missing the narrow gap. The soldier held his breath, his chest burning. The alien woman leaned so close he could feel her trembling, her glowing skin almost brushing his face. For a moment, the world was silent except for the distant hum of hunters above. When the probe was gone, she exhaled slowly, relief softening her features. "You see now?" she whispered, her voice quiet but fierce. "Alone, I would have died, but together, we can outsmart them." The soldier met her eyes in the glow, and for the first time, he felt the truth in her words. She was not a burden, she was a guide, a survivor, a fighter in her own way. They continued deeper, the tunnel sloping downward into darkness. But every sound made their nerves tighten. Cracks in the ice, distant thuds above, the memory of red eyes behind them. The soldier knew one thing clearly now. They were no longer hiding. They were being hunted, and every step only made the chase sharper. Finally, the tunnel opened into a cavern of frozen stone, massive icicles hanging like the teeth of some great beast. The woman collapsed onto the ground, her strength nearly gone. The soldier knelt beside her, wrapping the blanket tighter around her shoulders. But even as he did, he heard new sounds from above. A low rumble, heavy boots, weapons charging. The hunters had found the tunnel, and they were coming. The soldier raised his rifle, his eyes steady. The alien woman lifted her head, her voice weak but determined. They will not stop, she whispered. Not until both of us are dead. The soldier gave her a grim nod. Then let them come, he said quietly. We'll give them a hunt they'll never forget. The secret revealed. The cavern was dark and vast, its frozen walls glittering with the light of their shallow breaths. The human soldier kept his rifle raised, his eyes sweeping the icy chamber. Every echo of dripping water sounded like a hunter's step, every shadow like an enemy waiting. The alien woman sat against the wall, her thin frame trembling not only from the cold, but from something deeper. The soldier crouched beside her, his voice low but firm. They will find us soon. We need to keep moving. She shook her head, clutching the blanket tight around her shoulders. No, not yet, she whispered. You deserve to know the truth before you risk more for me. The soldier frowned, his grip tightening on the weapon. He didn't like delays, but something in her tone held weight. He nodded once, silently granting her the space to speak. She pulled back part of the blanket, revealing her arms. Faint glowing scars ran across her skin, carved into cruel shapes, some fresh, some old. The light from them flickered faintly, like fire dying in ash. These are not marks of honor, she said bitterly. They are chains, reminders of what my people did to me. The soldier's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Her voice grew sharper, filled with anger. I was not left behind by accident. I was exiled, she spat. I defied my warlord, refused to carry out his order to slaughter a village of children, weak and defenseless. Her eyes glistened with both fury and shame. For that mercy, I was branded traitor, stripped of my rank, and thrown into the storm to die. The soldier studied her, his eyes steady. This alien woman, once cast out for compassion, now sat here begging for warmth from the very species her people called weak. It stirred something inside him. Not pity, but respect. She had chosen mercy when cruelty was easier. That was not weakness, that was strength. Her voice broke softer now, trembling. My people believe only the ruthless deserve life. The cruel become leaders, the merciful become prey. She touched one glowing scar on her neck, her fingers shaking. They burned these marks into me so everyone would know I was unworthy. Her eyes locked on his, filled with pain but also fire. But you did not see weakness when you gave me that blanket. You saw someone worth saving. The soldier's gaze hardened, his silence deeper than words. Finally, he spoke in his calm, rough voice. They were wrong, he said simply. You are not weak. The alien woman's lips parted, her breath catching at the weight of those words. No one had ever said them to her before, not even her own kind. For a brief moment, the cavern felt warmer, their shared silence louder than the storm outside. But that moment shattered when a metallic screech echoed from the tunnel above. The soldier snapped his head toward the sound, rifle ready. The hunters were closing in, their machines crawling through the ice, tracking every trace of heat. The woman's scars glowed brighter, responding to the energy of their presence. They are near, she whispered, her voice filled with dread. They will not stop, not until my heart stops beating. The soldier crouched, offering her his hand. We move now, he said firmly. She hesitated, staring at his outstretched hand. It was not just a gesture of survival. It was a promise to face death together. Slowly, she took it, her cold fingers gripping his tightly. They moved deeper into the cavern, ice crunching under their boots. The walls grew narrower, the path steeper, and the sound of hunters grew sharper. The soldier could feel the vibrations in the ice, heavy boots striking closer. The alien woman leaned close, whispering, There is a lower passage here, hidden by the frozen stone. I know it because I ran through these tunnels once, when they cast me out. Her glowing scars pulsed faintly as she pressed her hand against the wall. The ice cracked, revealing a hidden slit in the cavern's side, just wide enough for them to slip through. As they squeezed inside, the soldier glanced back. Through the narrowing gap, he saw tall, armored shadows entering the cavern, weapons humming with lethal light. One hunter knelt, touching the ground where their heat still lingered. The soldier knew it would not be long before they followed. In the safety of the hidden tunnel, the alien woman whispered fiercely, You see now why I cannot return, why I must fight, why I need you. Her eyes burned with a vow, her voice sharp despite her weakness. If you protect me, I will not run, I will not break, I will fight by your side until my last breath." The soldier gave a single nod, his eyes steady, his rifle gripped tight. He had no illusions. Danger was close, death even closer. But with every word she spoke, with every scar she revealed, he understood her more. This was no helpless exile, no fragile survivor. This was a warrior broken by cruelty but unyielding in spirit. And now, she was his ally. Behind them, the hunters roared as their machines tore into the cavern walls. The chase was not over. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm that was coming. But together, human and alien, bound not by orders but by choice, they stepped deeper into the ice, ready for the fight ahead. The escape. The hidden tunnel twisted like a frozen serpent beneath the cavern. The walls were tight, the air thin, and every step echoed through the ice. The human soldier kept his rifle in one hand, his other hand gripping the alien woman's arm as she stumbled forward. Her glowing scars dimmed and brightened with each breath, like embers struggling against a storm. Behind them, the roar of hunters filled the cavern, their machines grinding stone and ice. The sound grew closer, sharper, like wolves tearing through the dark. The soldier glanced back only once, enough to see red lights glowing where the cavern had been. "They are faster than I thought," he muttered. The alien woman's eyes narrowed, her voice trembling but firm. "Then we must be smarter than them." She pressed her hand against the tunnel wall, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the scars on her arm pulsed brighter, and the ice shifted. Hidden beneath the surface, ancient alien technology stirred awake. A seam cracked open, revealing a narrow passage that had been buried for years. The soldier's eyes widened slightly, but he said nothing, only motioned for her to go first. Her alien power might have been the reason she was exiled, but now it was the reason they had a chance to live. The new passage dropped steeply, forcing them to slide down smooth walls of frozen stone. Their bodies scraped against the ice, the cold biting into their skin. At the bottom, they landed hard on a ledge overlooking a wide underground river, black and frozen on the surface. The woman gasped for breath, clutching her chest. "This way leads to the lower valley," she whispered. "If we reach the far side, the hunters will lose our trail." The soldier studied the river, his jaw tight. The ice was thin in places, the current beneath it strong. Crossing would be dangerous, but staying meant death. He pulled her up and pointed toward the far shore. "Then we cross," he said simply. They stepped carefully onto the ice, each crack sounding like thunder in the silence. The woman's bare feet slipped, but the soldier steadied her, guiding her forward. Behind them, the tunnel exploded with light, hunters pouring out like shadows of steel. Energy weapons hissed, beams cutting across the cavern. The soldier fired back, his rifle echoing, sparks lighting the ice. "Run," he barked, pulling her along. The ice shattered beneath their boots, sending shards into the air. Water surged up, freezing cold, grabbing at their legs. The soldier pushed the woman ahead, his strength keeping her from falling into the black current. Her glowing scars flared, and she pressed her palm flat against the ice. For a moment, the river itself froze solid, locking the water in place like a shield. The soldier stared in shock, but she only whispered through clenched teeth, "Hurry, I cannot hold it long." Together they sprinted across the frozen river, the hunters firing behind them. Each blast cracked the ice, each step threatened to drag them under. But at last, they reached the far shore, stumbling onto stone. The woman collapsed, her strength nearly gone, her body trembling violently. The soldier knelt beside her, lifting her into his arms without hesitation. "You saved us," he said gruffly, his voice low but full of meaning. Her eyes fluttered open, weak but fierce. "No, human," she whispered. "We saved each other." Before he could answer, the ground shook, a low rumble filling the cavern. The hunters' weapons had weakened the frozen ceiling. Massive slabs of ice cracked and fell, crashing into the river. The soldier ran, carrying her against his chest, dodging falling shards of ice as the cavern collapsed behind them. The roar of destruction chased them like an avalanche. They burst into a narrow tunnel, the collapse sealing the river behind them with walls of stone and ice. For the first time since the storm began, there was silence. The soldier set her down gently, his chest heaving with exhaustion. The woman leaned against the wall, her breath shallow, her scars dim again. Her voice was quiet but steady. You see now why they feared me, why they hated me. I carry power they could not control. The soldier looked at her scars, at the strength hidden beneath her fragile frame. And he understood. They had tried to destroy her not because she was weak, but because she was too strong, too different, too unwilling to obey. The soldier reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar, breaking it in half and pressing one piece into her hand. Eat, he said simply. She hesitated, staring at the food as though it were more kindness than she deserved. Finally, she took a bite, her eyes never leaving his face. In that silence, a bond deepened, no longer just survival, but trust. The tunnel ahead was long and dark, and danger still followed them. But they had crossed death together, shared warmth, fought side by side. The storm outside might rage forever, but inside the frozen earth, something new had begun. Not just escape, but alliance. Not just survival, but a promise. The stand. The tunnel stretched into black silence, but the soldier knew it was not freedom. The hunters were still behind them, their roars and machines echoing faintly in the ice. The alien woman leaned against his arm as they walked, her glowing scars faint but alive. Every step she took seemed to pull strength from her bones, yet her eyes held steady fire. At last the tunnel opened into a wide chamber carved by time and water. Icicles hung like knives above, and the frozen floor gleamed with a glassy sheen. The soldier scanned the cavern quickly, but there was no exit, only walls of ice and stone. A dead end. He clenched his jaw, lifting his rifle, his voice calm though his heart pounded. This is where we stand, he said. The woman's breath caught, her eyes narrowing. They will come with numbers, with weapons, she whispered. You cannot fight them alone. The soldier gave her a steady look. Then I won't fight alone, he said simply. The ground shook, a deep rumble spreading through the cavern. A moment later, armored hunters stormed in, their glowing visors like burning suns in the darkness. Behind them crawled machines, spider-like probes skittering across the ice, their red eyes glowing. The air filled with the hum of weapons charging. The soldier raised his rifle, his body lowering into a defensive stance. He knew the odds, one man against many, but his eyes did not waver. The woman's scars flared brighter, responding to the energy in the air. She stumbled forward, her voice low and fierce. They fear me because I am not weak, she said, her words like iron. They cast me out, but they will learn what that choice cost them. The hunters spread out, their leader stepping forward. His voice boomed, distorted by armor. Exile, your death was ordered long ago, and now you drag a human into your shame. His weapon aimed at her chest, glowing brighter. The soldier stepped in front of her, his rifle raised. Then you'll go through me first, he said coldly. The hunters laughed, a harsh sound echoing in the cavern. One fired. A beam of burning light shot across the chamber. The soldier rolled aside, firing back, his bullets sparking against their armor. The cavern exploded with sound, rifles, beams, and the hiss of melting ice. The soldier moved fast, striking targets with precision, but there were too many. Each shot he fired bought only seconds. Each second brought the hunters closer. Then the woman screamed, not in fear, but in rage. Her scars burst with light, filling the cavern with a blinding glow. She raised her hands, and the ice beneath the hunters cracked like thunder. Frost exploded upward, spearing through armor, freezing limbs in place. The hunters roared, their weapons faltering as ice crawled over them. The soldier stopped firing, stunned for a heartbeat. He had never seen power like this, raw and unstoppable. The woman's body trembled violently, blood at her lips, but she pushed harder. Energy pulsed from her scars, waves of light rippling through the cavern. The probes shattered, their red eyes fading into black. Hunters fell to their knees, trapped in walls of ice that grew faster than they could break. Her voice echoed across the chamber, filled with fury and pain. You called me weak, yet I stand while you kneel. The soldier moved to her side, steadying her as her legs buckled. Her body shook as if each pulse of power tore at her life. Enough, he said firmly, his voice carrying command. You'll kill yourself. But she shook her head, her eyes glowing bright. If I stop now, they will rise again, and you will die. The cavern trembled, the ceiling cracking as her power surged. Chunks of ice fell like meteors, smashing into the frozen ground. The soldier wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. If we die fighting, he growled. But not like this, not by losing you. Her power flared one last time, a massive wave of frost sweeping across the chamber. The hunters froze mid-step, their weapons locked in ice, their bodies encased like statues. Then her light dimmed, her body going limp in his arms. The cavern grew silent again, the storm of battle over. The soldier lowered her gently to the ground, his own breath heavy. Her eyes fluttered open, weak and fading. You are alive, she whispered, her voice soft as snow. He pressed the blanket around her shoulders, his grip firm. Because of you, he answered. Her lips curved in the faintest smile, though her strength was nearly gone. Around them, the frozen statues of hunters stood in silence. An army defeated not by guns or steel, but by the will of an exile and the choice of a human. The soldier lifted her in his arms, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. The fight was not over, but this stand would be remembered. For in this cavern, they had turned the hunt upside down. The hunted had become the hunters. The promise. The cavern was silent, but the silence was not peace. It was the heavy quiet after battle, when smoke still lingered and hearts still raced. The frozen statues of hunters stood like broken monuments, trapped in jagged walls of ice. The human soldier knelt on the ground, cradling the alien woman in his arms. Her glowing scars had faded to a dull flicker, her strength nearly gone. Each breath she took was shallow, fragile, as though the storm inside her had burned everything she had left. Her head rested weakly against his chest, her silver hair matted with frost and blood. The soldier tightened the blanket around her, his jaw set in grim determination. You used too much, he muttered, his voice low but edged with anger. You should have stopped. Her lips trembled, forming a faint smile. If I had stopped, you would be dead, she whispered softly. Her voice cracked, but her eyes held no regret, only the quiet pride of sacrifice. The soldier's heart clenched at her words. He had seen comrades fall, but this was different. She had chosen to risk everything not for her own kind, but for him. And that choice weighed heavier than any weapon. Above them, the cavern's ceiling groaned, cracks spreading like veins through the ice. The soldier looked upward, then back at her pale face. We cannot stay here, he said firmly. If this place collapses, neither of us will see another sunrise. He lifted her into his arms, her light frame pressing against him. Each step he took across the frozen chamber echoed with purpose. He carried not only her weight, but the vow forming in his chest. She had been abandoned, called weak, cast out into the storm. But as long as he lived, she would never be abandoned again. They reached a narrow passage on the far side of the cavern. The soldier pressed forward, ducking beneath sharp icicles, his boots crunching against the brittle floor. Behind them, the frozen hunters cracked faintly as the ice shifted, but none broke free. The woman stirred weakly, her voice faint but clear. No one ever gave me warmth before you, she whispered. Her words struck him deeper than any blade. He looked down at her, his voice steady. Then hear me now, he said. As long as I breathe, you'll never be alone. Her eyes widened slightly, glistening with tears she had no strength to shed. In those words, she heard something she had never known before, a promise, unshakable. Not an order, not a bargain, not a condition, but a vow born of choice. The tunnel sloped upward, and faint light appeared ahead. The soldier pushed harder, carrying her toward the glow. When they emerged, the storm had calmed, the sky split with two suns rising together. The snowfield stretched endless, but in the distance stood jagged cliffs that promised shelter. The woman weakly raised her hand toward the horizon. That way, safety, she murmured, before her strength failed again. The soldier set her gently on the snow, kneeling beside her. Her breath fogged in the cold air, her pulse faint beneath his hand. He tore strips from his own pack, wrapping her wounds. Every motion was precise, practiced, but his eyes burned with more than duty. He had seen many die in war, but he would not let her be another ghost in the snow. As he worked, she whispered again, her voice faint as a breeze. You should have left me like they did. You risk too much." The soldier's hands froze for a moment. Then he leaned closer, his voice like iron. "I am not them," he said. "You asked me for one blanket, one night, and I gave it. But now I give you more. I give you tomorrow." Her trembling lips curved into the faintest smile. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe. Not in survival, but in a future. The soldier wrapped her in the blanket again, lifting her once more. He turned toward the cliffs, his steps firm despite the endless storm. Behind them, the wrecked cavern collapsed fully, burying the frozen hunters under mountains of ice. Ahead, the rising suns painted the snow in gold and crimson. Two figures moved slowly across the wasteland. Not enemies, not strangers, but allies bound by fire and frost. The exile who had been cast away, and the human who had seen her worth. And in that moment, though the world remained cold and merciless, a new story began, not of death, not of despair, but of a promise. A promise that as long as the soldier lived, she would never walk alone again.